Hello and welcome to the Popcorn Junkies, or the Flopcorn Flunkies.
Or that, yeah.
Yeah, if we don't like a film, we give it a big... okay, so this is Nosferatu.
Gotta say it like Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, it's not, it is a vampire. Nosferatu. This is the 2024 version of Nosferatu. There have been many versions, actually, of this before. The most famous...
How many?
Well, the most famous is the 1922 silent film.
Oh, no, I haven't. Oh, I saw that other one.
Nosferatu, by F.W. Murnau, I think was his name. And that's where we got that sort of, you know, the ubiquitous image of the kind of bald head.
Yeah, I've seen that.
He's always the scariest vampire.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And we'll get to that in a bit, because I love the original vampire. I find him really scary and he was bald and...
They have long ears.
Long ears and... and all that kind of stuff. So this is a remake, but it's interesting because it's a remake by Robert Eggers. Now, Robert Eggers, what do you think of him? The Witch.
I do like The Witch.
I like The Witch. That was his first.
Yeah, I think that was actually the first horror film I saw in the cinema.
Wow. That's right. Finley saw it with us, didn't he?
Yeah, and I wasn't old enough yet.
Oh, so that was
because it was an 18, that.
Yes.
And I didn't get ID'd, but Finley did, and Finley was like over the age.
That's so funny. We all remember our first 18, underage 18, because mine was Nightmare on Elm Street.
But that was, I remember that as the first one I saw in the cinema.
Well, he did The Witch. He also did The Lighthouse, which also starred Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson.
I really liked The Witch.
We liked that, didn't we? It was a sort of...
Weird, but...
Yeah, sort of nautical fairy tale... weird sort of thing, which was humorous but also quite sinister, and then
shot beautifully.
Beautifully shot in that sort of aspect ratio of the cube, and black and white, and very huge kind of huge. I mean, he's a great craftsman, Robert Eggers. All of his films have remarkable kind of attention to detail and all that kind of stuff. And then he made The Northman. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't see The Northman.
And The Northman was The Viking. I will avenge my father. I will avenge my brother. I will avenge. Basically avenging everyone. And then Bjork was in that. And even the presence of Bjork, I liked it, but not all of it. So those are his three films. So he's a real auteur. This film cost 70 million to make, which, relative to things like Avengers, it's not a lot, but it is a lot for an art house film. Lots of set builds, lots of rats. Yeah. So this is a remake and a kind of tribute to the original film, the 1922 film, which he was a huge fan of. And the reason I'm going to great lengths to say all of that bollocks is because one of the things that I think is a problem with this film is how attached it is to the original. And I think there are some problems with that. But anyway, who does it star? It's got Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah, which I happened to figure out at one point.
Yeah, very
by
hard
myself.
It's another one of those kind of roles, a bit like Colin Farrell in The Penguin, where you think, God, the makeup's so good. Do you need Colin Farrell? I mean, of course you do, because it's the actor.
Of course, because it's Colin Farrell.
But yeah, so this has Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok. It has Nicholas Hoult.
Yes, who I love.
Where did you first find him?
Skins.
He's got beautiful eyes.
He's a beautiful man.
And he's got sort of sharp eyebrows.
Yeah, he does.
He?
Yeah,
I like his sharp eyebrows. This also stars Lily Rose Depp. Really interestingly,
beautiful woman.
Absolutely stunning.
Because I haven't actually seen her in like acts before, because I didn't watch that show.
I was really impressed by her in The Idol.
I've seen clips of her in The Idol, and she looks really good in it.
And
but I've followed her on Instagram since I was probably like.
Right. Wishing you were.
Yeah, I was like, would it be Lily? Oh yeah, that.
Yeah. She was doing an interview the other day where she said she's never recovered from the trauma of the ending of Edward Scissorhands. She said one of her earliest childhood traumas is not Johnny Depp being your dad and all the potential madness that could come with that. But was watching the end of Edward Scissorhands.
Oh my God.
She could never. Yeah, apparently it was one of her earliest childhood traumas.
Oh.
So Lily Rose Depp's in that. I loved her in The Idol. The Idol got slated. I liked The Idol. I thought it was actually a really rich show. It also stars Aaron Taylor-Johnson,
who I love and I'm in love with.
Don't ask questions. Okay, Emma Corrin, who I think is availing herself more and more, and Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
So it's a quite a rich cast.
Yes,
really.
it is.
So it's a long film. It's a horror. We went in thinking we were going to get a horror. I was expecting to be scared and all that kind of stuff. So it's Victorian era. It's old, and then basically a lot of signing of contracts, which I want to talk about because I thought that was interesting.
Right.
So much sort of couldn't happen without the signing of a contract. All this kind of stuff. So first of all, how did you feel as you were sat down watching it? Because you're a horror fan, you like the cast, and you're a fan of Robert Eggers.
And I liked the look of the trailer as well, so it can't go too wrong. I felt like the beginning was a bit stop and start. I didn't
Yeah.
really know what was getting ready for, basically.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what we'd settled down to watch.
And we were introduced to Lily Rose Depp, weren't we?
Yeah.
And
I wasn't sure about her from the get-go.
I'm glad you said that. Almost the first moment she opened her mouth,
I was like, I'm not sold.
No. And I feel bad saying that because a number of
Me
people
too.
who say they maybe don't even like this film or it's not great for them, they feel that
That
Lily
she
Rose Depp
is.
was good.
Well, I'll still say I feel like, you know, she went all out with the performance that she gave.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a difficult performance to do because I don't think her character's particularly I found her character quite annoying.
Yes.
So I feel like it's quite hard to do a good job of an annoying character.
Yeah.
And I feel like just the setup for the film and I guess what the actors were asked to do with their characters, having all of that in mind, she didn't do a terrible job. I just didn't feel connected to her character or that concerned about her.
It was quite an
It's
empty...
a problem if you don't care about the main character.
Yeah, absolutely right. And really this is... The whole story of any vampire or any Dracula film is really the love interest of the vampire, which essentially she becomes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's worldwide domination, evil, he wants to eat everything in his path and all that kind of stuff, but it isn't really. I mean, in this is about him wanting to kind of possess and there's a love aspect to this, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think
I kind of forgot the whole sexual connotation,
Yes.
like all the sexual stuff that comes with
Yes.
vampire stuff.
Yeah.
I just felt, it just feels...
And it is a
need
huge...
to be that sexual.
Yeah, but it's a huge part. I mean,
I get it, but it's just like it just made me feel a bit
sick.
Unsavory. It was just a bit unsavory.
Yeah. So I tell you the thing that struck me most really was, so you got Lily Rose Depp. We were introduced to the characters. You got a sense of Nick Hoult. I thought Nicholas Hoult was sensational from the get-go.
I do as well. Yeah.
I mean, I think he really, for me, kept the opening 20 minutes of it clipping along with a real sense of kind of integrity. I kind of bought into his...
Yeah, and I felt like his performance allowed us to kind of buy into what the film was about as well. Like he was selling everything else for me because of how good his performance was. I was believing the things going on around him.
And would you agree that, I mean, I felt the reason that was so with him, he was maybe almost the only actor in it who managed to pull off whatever the director was asking of them, which was the impossibility of playing it as it was, which is a sort of gothic horror.
Yeah.
But doing it in such a sort of straight way, it ran the risk of tipping into comedy.
Yeah.
And whilst there was the slimmest element of that with him all the way through, I felt with every other actor in the film, it kept tipping into pantomime.
Yes, apart from with him.
Apart from with him.
Yeah, I agree.
And I found that really shocking and surprising. And I didn't quite know. So for anyone who's seen The Lighthouse, I was getting... That's meant to be funny at times.
Yeah.
But this kept feeling like it was asking us to...
It kind of like, there were points where we'd kind of chuckle or laugh or something, and I just felt like I shouldn't be laughing at this. Like this is accidentally becoming comedic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I agree. He was the only one that didn't end up doing the panto-y type thing.
So when he was scared, it was scary.
I want to say, I think Nicholas Hoult did some of the best acting scared that I've seen in a while. Like he played fear really believably.
Yes.
I mean, there's the whole, for me, the most stressful part of like, almost tense part of the whole film was near the start where Nicholas Hoult goes to Count Orlok's sort of palace, castle or whatever.
Palace in the hills.
When he goes there to have this contract signed and all of this kind of stuff. If I'm honest, didn't think Count Orlok looked scary at all. I thought he was just a bit kind of naff, and it would have been laughable had Nicholas Holt's acting scared not been as good as it was, because I just felt like his fear was so real, and the look on his face when, you know, it was like a moment where he cut his finger and then Count Orlok was breathing weird and he was just like so terrified. It made me scared of the scene and it made me feel stressed, and I feel like if it hadn't been Nicholas Hoult and the acting hadn't been as amazing as his was in that scene, the scene just wouldn't have been a good one.
Oh no, and I agree, and I'd go even further. I think that if Nicholas Hoult hadn't done as much of the heavy lifting, in a sense, that he did do in those opening scenes, I don't think I'd have bought into almost the fear factor for the rest of the film.
Yeah, 100%.
Because really, most of the then scary stuff is the more obvious stuff of like ripping the heads off pigeons.
Which even that was just a bit like, well, now you're doing the ripping the head off.
Exactly. Or the flying through the night and the shadow and silhouette of the vampire and the finger and all this kind of... I mean, and
I get that I totally understand that all that stuff had to be in it, because it's all classic, you know, they're all the classic things that some people would be going to see. So I totally understand that, but I just felt the rest of the film didn't have enough...
But then I don't even understand.
I
agree with you. I think a lot of people are going to want to go and see this, but that's why I went into the detail of explaining what the first film, which was this incredibly sort of atmospheric, amateurish, because back in the day they weren't able to do too many special effects. The thing that I remember about the original this is the 1922 silent film, was just how truly creepy that Nosferatu was. It was his long teeth, it was his bald face, it was his long fingers, a little bit like the vampire that we had in What We Do in the Shadows. That film, do you remember? And for me, he's possibly physically the most frightening vampire in cinema history. And then what it struck me that they did in this, which we do see quite early on, you get revealed it, okay, it'll be it in silhouette, and then it's a little bit of a reveal, but you then get a sense of it is, we've essentially got a sort of decrepit, decaying Cossack with a beard and a nose and hair. There was nothing actually about Nosferatu that I found...
Other than the long fingers, really.
No, and the long fingers. So here's the thing. Why was he going for what felt almost like an attempt to recreate every part of the original film? Apart from how scary the vampire was.
Yeah. I don't know. Would have probably been the most important things.
Yeah. I don't understand. So
I get it. Like, if you want, if the design of the vampire was going to be original, fine, but it just wasn't good.
No.
Like, at least make it scary. I wasn't scared of him.
Yeah. No, not at all. Now, weirdly, the thing that was carrying me through more than the horror, more than the vampiric nature of it, I was having to kind of work my way round the slightly comedic kind of delivery of most actors in it.
Yeah.
I mean, right down to Simon McBurney, who played
the Doctor.
Yeah, Mr. Knock.
He was just ridiculous.
He was like Nosferatu's agent out in the field, who went fishing for, a bit like Renfield. He went fishing for Nick Holt's character.
Yeah.
That's a bit meta, because Nick Hoult played Renfield, didn't he? So he was the one fishing around in sort of Victorian Germany.
And the one that sent him on the mission.
Yeah. I just found all of the characters. It was pastiche. It was panto. I could never get invested in the fear factor, because I was forever being tugged back towards a sort of light-hearted feel, and I can't work out what the decision was around that. I do think the voice of Nosferatu was good to begin with. I liked his raspiness. He needed an asthma inhaler.
The breathing was a bit, it was creepy.
I mean, and what I liked about the sound of that was you could hear the sense that he had obviously just flecks of flesh in his rib cage, and the wind was moving in and out of it. But anyway, it follows the route of, him flying off. He possesses Nick Hoult, he bites Nick Hoult, he flies off. And Lily. So let's talk about the individual performances. So Nick Hoult, we've sort of said, I think Nick Hoult is peerless throughout. I think
he was so good. Yeah, he was really good.
Very powerful. And he managed to do the impossible, I think, of holding on to some of what was a light-heartedness, but holding on to the truth of fear. I think he did that well. Lily Rose Depp. As you rightly say, she wasn't particular. I didn't find her.
Her character was a very empty character. It just wasn't really anything to. Yeah. Her possession performances were incredible, and she went all out in them.
Yes.
So I thought she was incredible at the demonic possession, all of that kind of stuff. I won't fault her performance in that. And
she rolls her eyes back like a nutter.
Yeah, that was really good, and I totally get that. Like, I just feel like that was just a difficult performance, to be honest, because on one hand she does all that crazy stuff, and then she comes back to the character being her normal self, and she's just a bit like, Thomas, I just felt every time she spoke, when it wasn't her being possessed or having like a massive kind of breakdown or crash out or whatever, it just felt very flat.
In a way, though,
I don't know if that's the writing or something.
Yeah, but interestingly, I found Emma Corrin better at the straight stuff. Emma Corrin,
but she had a better character.
Yes, that's true.
She had a character that had, was normal.
Yeah, but I think you're right. Maybe the problem is with her characterization is she's got no real backstory other than she's the wife or the partner or the fiance of Nick Hoult, and that's it. She's only defined by that.
The accent was a problem for me.
Yes, okay.
The accent was a problem.
It was a bit clean, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it just was a problem.
Okay. All right. Aaron Taylor-Johnson, who played Emma Corrin, I thought was brilliant throughout.
Yeah, so I love him, right? In this family, I'm like a massive fan of his. And it's not just because I'm in love with him. I also think he's a really good actor. But Dad doesn't think he's a good actor.
Why did he just hasn't excited me? The last film I saw him in was Bullet Train, and he was like a really old Eric Idle, and he just has never excited me. I've just never seen him in anything where I thought, oh, he's not doing an impersonation or something. That said,
it's in Kick-Ass.
Huh?
Kick-Ass?
Kick-Ass. Yeah, I need to see that again. I can't remember that. I mean, I liked him enough. I think he was doing what all the other actors were asked to do, and I think towards the last act where he loses his family and he's in a terrible state, I thought he was incredibly powerful. I thought he managed to do there what Nicole did earlier, which was play the pathos and carry this curiously toned kind of film.
I thought him and Nicholas Hoult were the best
Yeah.
ones in it.
I think, but don't you think with a film like this, you've either got to go dark, gothic and romantic with all the deep, dark reservoirs of fucking nastiness that come with that, or you go light and frothy and a bit silly. Because it
was really weird. I just didn't know how to feel when I was watching it. And if I'm honest, like it was beautifully shot.
Yeah.
I will say that. There were some shots that were some of the most beautiful I've seen in a while.
Yes.
And the soundtrack was amazing, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But even with that, I felt like it could have afforded to go more gothic.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
don't know.
In terms of set design, production design.
Yeah, and I feel like it just could have been more camp in the gothicness and everything. There was so much potential for it to be really aesthetically pleasing gothically, but I don't know. It just.
Do you feel like, in a weird way, I feel like he made so much effort, because when you look at many of the streets, of the cobbled streets of, is it Wisberg, you're right, in Germany, and you see these facades and you're thinking, I'm sitting there thinking, God, he spent 70 million on building lots of these streets, and then I'm thinking, and then you go to a scene, say, where Nosferatu is in his coffin. I'm not saying you want an obvious coffin, but it was almost like a tiny box It was
a weird coffin. It wasn't a proper coffin.
They didn't spend money on the coffin.
Well, they spent too much money on the coffin. They needed to keep it a bit more humble.
It was just something very odd. It was like it's like they'd concentrated on absolutely everything, and at the last minute they went, shit, we've forgotten about Nosferatu.
yeah, I know.
Do you know what I mean?
That is what it's
like,
felt
fuck,
like.
Just put a wig on him, put a tiny nose on him, get him to do a Cossack kick, a couple of ribs, and long fingers.
Yeah,
it was a bit like an after. Okay, well, Willem Dafoe. Now, I'm a big fan of Willem Dafoe.
Same, we are as a family.
We love him. We get the same vibe with him as we do with Christopher Walken, but I have a big butt.
Yeah.
Do you have a big butt?
Yeah.
When he turned round with the longest pipe,
untie the child.
And when he does it in the trailer, but he goes, I need it with a lumpet. Nosferatu.
Yeah.
The thing is, he's got to a place now where, and he was like this in Kinds of Kindness, the new film with Emma Stone. He's almost a caricature of himself being odd. So what you get
I feel like
Willem
he
Dafoe.
just stepped in and was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to do whatever I want to do.
Yeah. But he does
which I didn't actually necessarily have a problem with, but it's just like, it just felt almost like every aspect of the film, and even all the actors were in completely different things, and then they were like, let's just come together and make something out of this.
But it's like Willem Dafoe is, because he's in Beetlejuice too, too, and his part is totally superfluous to it. He just runs into various scenes, and he's as
I feel like he's just reached a point where he's just like, I don't fucking care anymore.
He's like, let me just appear in your film, and he's like, I'll do it.
And because of Willem Dafoe, they're like, yeah, go ahead.
Fuck it, we've got Willem Dafoe. But when he turned around with the longest pipe,
the pipe was ridiculous.
It was screaming.
They're not going for, unless they were going for laughs.
Well, at that point, it was like Mel Brooks's Young Frankenstein. I mean, it was that kind of.
Yeah. It was really.
I mean, it was and really too much comedy emanated from him.
And like within moments that weren't supposed to be fun. Do you know what I mean? Like he was always in a pivotal moment.
Yes.
But all you were really thinking was.
And I think you're getting where we're getting to with this review, because I think in summary that tonal the tonal confusion at the centre of this film was my big problem. Let's give a shout out to the actor you were talking about, Ralph Ineson, who's amazing accent. He played the dad in The Witch.
I thought he was really good.
I thought he was great. What did you think of Simon McBurney playing Air Knock? He was the one who was running around the streets like the mad.
I don't know. I mean, the first bit when he was naked and he was scribbling stuff on the floor, and I was like, "Oh, this is weird," because he's just sent him, and now can't trust. I didn't trust him from the get-go, to be honest. And he had a weird mark on his head, and it made me feel.
Yeah, big scabby.
But I was like, okay, this is like eerie or whatever. I even quite liked the scene where they come in on him and when he bites the pigeon's head. But that was funny.
Yes.
It was like, good sir, why have you done that then?
Yes.
It's like, well, I don't think he's in the. Guys just bitten the head off a pigeon. You don't ask him why he did it. But anyway, I just felt like his character got to a place of being so ridiculous. But every time he came on, I was just like...
What about the moment where he was strapped to a chair where I thought electricity was going to be piped through his head? And then we cut back to him and he was on the side and he was still in the chair. He'd fallen over. And then we see him running around...
That was just to keep him still.
Right. And then he's running around the cobbled streets like Rumpelstiltskin.
Actually running like Rumpelstiltskin. Yeah, it was really odd.
I mean, Simon McBurney is a great actor, but I have to say, so, as we rattle towards
I also didn't really want to see Nosferatu's Willy as well at one point. Do you remember when he stood up in his coffin? Yes. Just felt a bit like, no, there was no point of that.
Have you seen on Nick Holt's Instagram?
No, I haven't. I need to go.
They've handed him the prosthetic penis that Count Orlok framed, which is a lovely thing to have. Nice. Yeah, and also in terms of Count Orlok, I felt Nosferatu is the thing here. It's called it. It's what made the first film. It's what made subsequent films.
I'm not gonna lie. At the start, when we was meeting Count Orlok, I was like, okay, when are we meeting Nosferatu. In my head, I was like, oh, this guy's just like before we meet the actual.
Yeah, the guy at the end of the corridor in the silhouette.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, that's his assistant.
Yeah. And
It's
I did
him.
almost until like the end of that scene.
I was like, what the fuck?
I was like, this is the guy.
And then we had a lot of shots of like shadows of long.
I'm going to go on Fredo, let me go through the room and up the stairs, and now I'm going to turn the doorknob with my shadow.
Is it a comedy? Is it
I don't know,
to be a comedy?
you know what, if that's what they were going for, then like...
They 70% succeeded.
Yeah, fine. But
Maybe,
I don't think they were.
I mean, I have
maybe both, but if I'm honest, even if they were going for both, like, you just don't really know how to feel when you're watching it, because I just didn't. I was like, I don't know what I'm watching right now.
So in a weird way, you're right.
Don't
There
know
was
what I'm
never
being
a moment of unsettledness. There are some jump scares. There are moments where.
And there's more like unsavouriness
Yes.
of the sexual or the.
Well, and
Me and Dad came out of the cinema actually feeling a bit sick.
Well, because when he sucks on the heart and he only bites the heart, he guzzles.
Yeah, he like proper guzzles.
And there's something
blood.
about his body when he's crouched over it. It becomes a sort of thing that kind of.
No, but also because he like humps them while he drinks the blood, and it's just really disgusting.
It's incredibly, and in a weird way, that spoke to, albeit it was the most discomforting and disgusting part of it. In a weird way, I'd have been more impressed if I'd got more, not of that, but if the rest of the film kind of had more of that around.
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
You know,
it would make
almost the most effective part of all of the horror and discomfort was the sheer number of rats running around.
Yeah, which
everywhere.
apparently is the most amount. This film's the most amount of live rats used.
Wow. 2 records.
Not CGI, like live.
Live rats.
That's another thing with rats. Like, I don't get that bothered by them because
Right.
I like
Yeah,
rats.
You like rats, but you love all living creatures apart from Nosferatu.
I don't like obviously
dead,
dirty
isn't it?
rats have rabies and the plague,
Yeah.
but
Just a shout out to some of the technicalities.
what did you think of the boat stuff? They brought the plague on the ship.
Well, I suppose that was very functional. I mean, I love a bit of kind of nautical seafare and stuff. I mean, I was feeling, we're back in the lighthouse. But you're right, the people being bitten on the boat and. Was that?
And they were like quarantine the sick ones, and then they were all just like dying. I felt like there was. Was like, oh, okay, this bit of stuff's actually freaking me out a bit, just because ships scare me anyway.
You see, that was a good point that you.
There wasn't much time given to it.
No, it wasn't much time given to it. But I think, in a weird way, you can begin to see where the 70 million was spent. I think moments like that. Great. Here's my frustration with the film, and I'd imagine it might be a frustration if you were in it. A huge amount of care has gone into this film. I mean, 70 million has been spent on an absolutely sort of ornate.
Yeah.
It's ornately done. It's beautifully shot.
Yeah.
Beautiful lighting. I mean, right down to little scenes where. Was it Nick Hoult or Lily Rose? I can't remember who walked into that pub, and I said to you, "Good God, look at the low-key lighting of all the candles in that pub environment." It was like a bar.
when Nicholas Hoult ended up at that village.
That's right, and that weird Romanian village where they're all dancing with a, and they took a kind of naked virgin out to the
I don't know what
forest.
was going on.
There are so many indulgences in
But
this film.
it's a beautiful film to watch. Like if I was watching it and the sound was off, I'd be like, oh, "This looks nice."
Yeah.
But
Well, like a silent film. Maybe it should be silent.
maybe it should have been a silent film.
Like the original. I mean, the thing.
But I loved the soundtrack as well.
Yes. Well, and on that note, look, just in case you're wondering.
Oh,
Any reputable record shop.
very nice.
Very nice. Yeah, we can play that and get freaked out. What I would say, a lot of people are saying this is one of the most cinematic films. It is actually
Yeah,
an
it actually
incredibly
is.
cinematic
It is
film.
very cinematic.
But isn't it interesting? You can have a cinematic film that isn't necessarily successful, or good, or achieve what it set out to
My
achieve.
problem is like. A film is a problem for me if I start getting fidgety and bored, and I got fidgety and bored.
Wow.
And I usually find the chairs at Westernwood Picture House comfortable, and I was like,
Wow.
me and you kept.
Yeah, we kept shifting.
I was getting fidgety, which
How long
is
it?
bad because I don't tend to get fidgety in film, and it's not. I mean, it was too long, 100%.
Yes.
But I'd managed to sit through films that long and not get fidgety, and I was getting bored, and I think that's.
Yeah, it just wasn't scary enough
just
for me.
wasn't.
It had jump scares, but it wasn't scary enough. It wasn't inventive enough. And I have to say, if I can draw a parallel, The Witch, for example, was big on atmosphere and actually very low on delivery. But it built so much stress.
The Witch scared the
shit out of me too. And it's not just about scariness. I get it, and it's but even.
But
the
I just think
romance
the other
in
stuff
this-
it would deliver, it didn't deliver.
No.
It's not just the horror.
I mean, there are some, almost every, well, rightly so. If you were to freeze frame every single shot, right down to, even Kiki said, the final shot of him over the body of Lily Rose Depp. These are beautiful, disgusting.
With the flowers,
disgusting but beautiful shots.
Gothic.
But in terms of the efficiency of a film and actually sitting there and going with it, I found it really
Difficult.
challenging.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Well, let's sum it up and score it. Do you want to go for it?
So I was excited about this from the trailer just because it looked so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful to look at.
Yeah.
I was appreciating all the cinematography and
Yeah, the effort.
the effort that was put into it. And there really was. And I think, even if you don't particularly like the film, like us, I think you can still appreciate the fact that a lot of care went into it, and they did succeed at making it cinematic. And if you are going to see it, I would say you'd have to see it in the cinema, just because it's one of those films. I wasn't sold on, you know, all the performances, but I still think the actors did amazing jobs, just because I think it was a really tricky thing to have a good performance in, just because the script and the characters were quite mannered characters, and it was quite mannered script, so it's quite hard to bring any depth to the characters, and some of them managed to do it, and even the ones that didn't, like Lily, you know, I wasn't sold the whole time with her performance, but she had moments of really like real standout moments. So I can appreciate everyone's performance in it as well. It was just too long, and I wasn't sticking with the storyline, and like the storyline wasn't good enough for me to be able to like stick with it.
Because it's a very simple story.
Yeah, but then they were just doing a lot around it, and I just felt a bit like, okay, a lot of scenes where the same kind of stuff was being said again and again. Like we've already said, you know, I didn't really know what the film was asking me to feel. Like, am I supposed to be finding this a bit like funny and comical, or like, is this romantic, or should I be scared because I'm not scared? So it was, I think like the only way I would describe this film is it was just a challenging watch. I just didn't really know like how to feel, what to think. But I think
tricky one to score.
It's really hard to score, actually.
Really hard. What would you say?
Because whatever I score, I would still I still want the like how beautiful it looks and the performances to still. I'm not disregarding that.
Yeah.
If I just had to score it overall in terms of my enjoyment of the film and how fidgety and bored I got at points, I feel like I would rate this in the 40s.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So 40. Give us a number.
43.
43. Wow. Yeah, that's hard. That's quite hard.
For me.
A couple of details that I just want to throw in. I love the administrative element to this. You have to sign, only upon Nicholas Hoult signing the contract did everything get going. I found it really odd that contracts were being signed and that something so supernatural, or to quote Willem Dafoe, he is not just Nosferatu, he is death. You know, I mean, he's not just a vampire, he is death. You know, it's a tricky one. There are so many elements in it that are enjoyable to indulge in. Watching Willem Dafoe being ridiculous in almost any role, running around like a nutter, gibbering like a psycho with a giant pipe, I'm up for. But parked within a film where I was expecting to be asked to really invest in quite a layered, dark, gothic, and there can be a sort of dark, and well, I go back to Nick Holt's performance. I think Nick Hoult got it better than the director did in some way. I think Nick Hoult understood how to deliver a lightness of touch with an authentic truth to his fear and the horror. Yeah. But I don't necessarily think the rest of the cast managed to do that. And I don't know if that's direction or if it's story or what. It was camp. It was a bit carry on. It was a bit farcical. There were many moments, like you say, Maddie, where I felt like with The Lighthouse, it was laugh out loud, silly, ridiculous. It was slapstick almost. And that for me just really kept pulling me out of the investment I had of going actually darker and deeper into maybe Lily Rose Depp. To be fair to Lily Rose Depp, I think she actually managed to keep taking us back there. She didn't come out. She wasn't light in the way
that each storyline we were following was so different that like.
So even Aaron Taylor Johnson had a lot. He was a bit sort of just caddish, and Simon McBurney, the kind of weird guy eating the heads of things, he was too far gone. And Willem Dafoe was ridiculous with giant pipes, and you know, and so it all just kind of ended up being a mix. But it's not entirely dissimilar to how I felt watching The Northman, which was a lot to like, but I don't think I'd ever want to watch it again. And that's a big judgment. So you say,
I don't think I would watch this again.
No. Okay, so you say 45. Yeah, I mean, technically, stylistically, cinematically, absolutely stunning.
Would be up there if I was judging it just by that.
Yeah, I think I'd be a bit more generous than you. I think I'd probably give it more like 55.
Yeah, that's fair.
55. But if I'm honest, it was quite a disappointment.
It was a disappointment, yeah.
There you go, guys. Tell us what you think.